What made you decide to have more kids? Are you going to find out the gender? Most annoying thing about unsolicited pregnancy advice. Postpartum must-haves. I feel like pregnancy really saved me. Welcome to my pregnancy Q&A. For those of you that follow me on Instagram, you know I do an AMA and Ask Me Anything there. And it's always very popular. And of course, recently, a huge percentage of the questions are about my pregnancy. So I figured I would just do one that is just pregnancy themed. We can chit chat, and I feel like it's best here because I could actually really get into it and elaborate way more than I can on the other platforms. I have all the questions here on my phone. Look how cute my case is. That's so cute. It's from Amazon on my storefront. Anyway, we'll get right into it. Well, actually, go grab a snack. Go get a snack or like a drink or a meal even, because I got a few questions to get through here. Or press pause, actually. Press pause and then unpause me when you're ready. What made you decide to have more kids, and how's the transition from 1 to soon to be 3? From the get-go, we always just wanted 1. So when we got married, when we were engaged even, we said we just want 1 kid because we felt like having 1 kid was the best way to have a kid, but still be able to manage to have the same lifestyle as before kids. We had Carter, and then once he turned like 4, we realized how small our family was. Meaning our extended family. I'm an only child, so I was totally all about having an only child. I feel like there's nothing wrong with it. There's a lot of things right with it, actually. But because our extended family was so much smaller, we felt like, we really want to expand a little. And also, very simply, it was so much more fun having a kid than we thought it was going to be. Like, if I'm gonna be honest, that is like the bottom line answer. Like I said, between like 3.5 to 4 years old, Kevin and I were like, wow, this is like actually so fun. Just completely changed our minds. I feel like a lot of our friends were really baffled because we were one and done for so long. And how do I feel about our transition going from 1 to 3? Well, 1 to 2 actually was pretty smooth for us because of the big age gap. I highly recommend, if you have the time, to do an age gap, because I feel like there is a big difference in having a 7-year-old and a baby than having a toddler and a baby. I think anyone out there that has a toddler and a baby, or multiple toddlers and babies, can attest to this. Because of that dynamic, it made having the second baby a lot smoother. Because Carter was pretty self-sufficient already. Now, 1 to 3, obviously I can't speak to it yet. We will have to see, but I will fully admit that I'm a lot more nervous because now we will be in the situation where we have a toddler and a baby. Guy and this baby will only be 2 years apart, 2 years almost exactly. So we will see. The main thing I feel like I have on my side is that we do have perspective because we have Carter. Like, I will say, having like a grown school age kid that's past all the baby toddler stuff does give you perspective when you go back to having a baby again. I don't want to say it minimizes the baby struggles, because baby struggles are obviously still going to be there, but it just puts everything into perspective, because there are so many other challenges that come later on that really make you realize that certain things about the baby stage, like the baby stage is so fleeting and so temporary. We would never see it that way. We never saw it that way when we just had Carter, right? But that is a helpful perspective for Kevin and I to have, but nevertheless, still very nervous to have 2 little teeny tiny ones. This was a big one. Are you going to find out the gender? Went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth again. Mostly me. I mean, Kevin was like good with whatever. Really wanted to be that person that did the surprise gender baby and waited till I gave birth. I couldn't do it. So we are going to find out. We don't know yet, but we are going to find out. I just have to decide how I want to do a reveal. And just FYI, we took the blood test early on to find out. So the results of the gender have been in now for almost like over 2 months. So the results are in, I just haven't called to find out. I feel like I'm already impressed with my self-control on that. And yes, I had the thought like, oh, well, I've already waited this long. Could I wait till the end? And the answer is no. Because I think what's happening now that I'm into like second trimester is I'm into that stage of nesting and planning now that I feel like I just have to know what the gender of the baby is going to be. Did pregnancy and your body changing ever restart your eating disorder problems? This, of course, is just my experience. I'm just speaking based on myself. I was really surprised that it did not reignite any of my eating disorder habits or even thoughts. If anything, it did the opposite. My very first pregnancy, when I got pregnant with Carter, I was so nervous that it was really gonna reignite all those feelings and really kind of like send me into a spiral. Instead, what happened was that I feel like pregnancy really saved me. Like it really put the nail in the coffin for my eating disorder because it made me realize how important it was to nourish my body. I had this life depending on me to feed it and give it all the nutrients it needs. And it made me feel really empowered actually to be able to choose and eat foods and feel strong from the foods. With each pregnancy, I have felt the same way. Like I'd say that my weight gain, although I still don't weigh myself and I don't let them tell me what my weight is at the doctors when I go, because when you're pregnant, they have to weigh. And they know not to tell me. But just based on my clothes, I would say my weight gain with all three have been pretty similar. But regardless of that, I feel like it makes me feel strong. And it makes me feel so powerful growing this life in my body. If I could speak more on that like later or in a different forum, I would love to, because I know there's a lot of us out there in the eating disorder community that pregnancy is probably one of the biggest, like most daunting things to think about going through before you've done it. And I'm sure once you have done it, we all have different experiences with it, but I would love to share my experience more into depth because I really feel like there is a way to kind of like shift your mindset. What has been your biggest salty craving and biggest sweet craving? You know, I love talking about food. If I had to choose, and you know this changes throughout the pregnancy, but right now in this very moment, say my biggest salty craving, samyang spicy noodles, like spicy ramen, soupy noodles. Like I can eat them all day, every day. I really have to try not to. My biggest sweet craving is 100% banana flavored stuff. Like I cannot get enough. Like banana bread, banana cake, banana flavored freaking drinks, lattes, that banana chocolate milk that I've been getting from Dutch Brothers. Hot chocolate was also a big one, but like now I've just ordered banana syrup so I could put it in my hot chocolate. The banana chocolate combo is a very big thing for me. Most annoying thing about unsolicited pregnancy advice. Everyone is speaking from their own experience, right? I'm all about sharing all different sides because I've had some positive experiences with things that I really like to share because I feel like there's a lot of negative press about certain subjects out there. I am most bothered by negative advice, meaning I guess it wouldn't be advice as much as it would be like negative testimonials, and then that leads to advice. You know, like, oh, get all your sleep now because you're never gonna sleep again. Or like, oh, well, you better get your pedicure now because you're not gonna have any time to yourself. Or like, oh, yeah, well, yeah, hope you and Kevin have a date night because, you know, you guys will never, your relationship will never be the same again. Oh my gosh, before I had Carter, I remember one of my close friends at the time, we're not close anymore, she was like the queen of doom foreshadowing. I don't even know what to call it, but she had a baby right before me and everything was just like, get ready. Okay, well, it's not gonna, she told me, your guys' relationship will never be the same again. And listen, yeah, it won't be. It shouldn't be. You're bringing a whole life into this world and into your hearts, your relationship. It shouldn't be the same, but it doesn't have to be all fucking gloom and doom and bad. So 100%, that's my pet peeve. I see it all over the internet still. I see it all over everywhere. It's just like, even if you had a bad experiences, like there are things that I had a bad experience with, I still wouldn't frame it that way. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be like, oh, get ready, this is gonna happen to you. I don't know, it gives me the ick and it makes me upset, especially when I see somebody saying that to like a first time mom. Like, so discouraging. Early pregnancy symptoms, do you get the typical nausea and or fatigue? No, is the short answer. I have not gotten nausea with any of the 3 of these pregnancies. Fatigue is a question mark. Like, I feel like fatigue is one of those things where it's kind of hard to decipher, right? Because yes, that there's moments where I feel more tired, but I can't tell if it's just in my head. Like, it hasn't been like fatigue to a point where I'm just like falling asleep. But yeah, there's moments where I'm like, oh, I feel like a little bit more tired. But I don't know if that counts. So no is the answer. But the one symptom I do have is that I'm a really anxious pregnant person. I'm very paranoid that something's going wrong with the baby like every second of the day. So in the beginning, to not have symptoms is actually terrifying. Like, I know everyone's like, no, you don't wish that you had morning sickness. Yes, I do. Like, I will, all 3 pregnancies in the beginning, the first, even into the second trimester, I'm just spiraling every day, thinking that something bad's happening to the baby. It can be debilitating, honestly. It's like, I don't know. And don't even get me started on healthcare and all that, but it's like, you don't even get seen that much in the beginning, right? You don't get like, it's not like you get like an abundance of ultrasounds or anything. So I don't know, I'm just really nervous and I would love a symptom or 2. How did you manage taking kids to daycare and going back to work? I loved and felt very grateful that I was able to stay with Carter until he went to preschool at home. And I think that the opinions across the board vary, right? Some women prefer to go back to work because you're not stuck at home then with a small little baby / toddler all day long. I enjoyed that time. I look back at that time very fondly. When I first sent Carter to preschool, I was very excited about it, very happy about it. It was actually very few tears. I thought he was going to lose his mind and he didn't, which that part was kind of insulting. I was like, what, bro? You're not even gonna cry? This time though, like I just said, I probably will start Guy in preschool earlier than I did with Carter. The guilt that I have for that is like, I feel bad that I'm not gonna be staying home as long with Guy as I did with Carter. I know the situation's different. As parents, you have to ebb and flow. That's a big part of parenthood. I'm supposed to go tour a couple preschools actually in the next couple weeks, but I know it's good for them to get socialized, and honestly, he loves being around other toddlers, like when we go to the park and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'll keep you posted. But yes, it is very common to feel anxious about sending your kid to daycare or preschool for the first time. Like, that is 100%, like, very nerve-wracking. Do you have alcohol cravings? Well, let me just tell you. Again, this is my experience. I know we all have different experiences because we all have different personalities, different backgrounds. My pattern was this. When I was pregnant, the first time around, my first pregnancy, 1,000,000% I had alcohol cravings because, like I told you, I didn't have nausea. That's another reason why it's good to have nausea, because when you're nauseous, you're not missing alcohol, you don't want anything. With my first pregnancy, I totally was like, oh, I wish I could have a glass of wine. I wish I could have my martini, especially, of course, in some social settings or at parties or situations. But it was very interesting because then for my second pregnancy, I was like way less than my first one. With this one, like literally not at all. Like, it's kind of crazy. I'm like, am I okay? Please speak to there's no perfect time to get pregnant. I can be like a poster woman for there's no perfect time to get pregnant, because we got pregnant with Carter on our honeymoon a week after we got married. Not the perfect time. And then when we wanted to have our second kid, which I told you was when Carter was around 4, then it took us a longer time to get pregnant. I have many like words of wisdom that I feel like I always want to tell all the girls out there, like as a big sister, an aunt, or even as a mom. And it's just like, you just cannot plan it like that not being able to plan the perfect time or not having a perfect time is different than, being completely irresponsible. But I would say if you're in the zone where you're like, I'm in this window now where I think I'm approaching wanting to have kids, when specifically should I have them? I feel like it's just, you cannot plan that. There is just no perfect time. I mean, it's a person coming to this world. So I just feel like when it happens, it happens. Postpartum must-haves. Okay, so there's a lot of shit out there. Like, I don't want to say shit, I mean, there's so much product. Pregnancy, postpartum, for the baby. Postpartum, take as much stuff from the hospital as you can. That's my advice. I delivered vaginally, so I can't speak to C-section. For a vaginal delivery, they give you, like, they have that gauze, like, underwear with the pads that they give you, and like the witch hazel pads. If you ask, they will give you extra. Why, when you can just take from the hospital? And then when you run out, then you can go to Amazon or CVS. But outside of those few things, I would say stool softener. Those are the initials. Like I said, the list really can be endless. There are so many things that can be helpful, but if you're asking me, that's my list for you. What do you think is the best age gap? This can kind of tie into the there's no perfect time thing. I feel like there is no perfect age gap. You have them super close, and then there's advantages and disadvantages to that. You have them far apart, advantages and disadvantages to that. And I will tell you right now, having my two boys now 7 years apart has been freaking amazing. Like, it's been so, they won't be close. I feel like they are close, just in a different way. And I feel like when they become adults, they will be super close. And actually, it might even be easier for them to get along because they have never been like competing with each other, right? They will still be your kids. They will still be each other's brother or sister, and just let it roll. Just let it roll. Did you breastfeed? If so, for how long? So I did breastfeed both of my babies. Carter, I breastfed for about 13 months, so a little bit over a year. And Guy, I breastfed for 3 months. And I stopped breastfeeding early. We wanted to try for another baby, and they say that the chances are higher if you're not breastfeeding anymore. Most of my good friends hated it, like hated breastfeeding. I really loved it. And it was so fucking weird, you guys, because like two of my friends I'm speaking of are like, they're really like, they really are into they're holistic, all natural. So leading up to, they were so into like breastfeeding for like as long as they could, and thought about it and like such like really like romanticized it so much. And I'm not like that. I'm like, whatever's easier for me. You never know what the result's gonna be, because then it came to, and I breastfed Carter and I loved it so much. Like, it made me feel so connected to him. I enjoyed it. Now, my one disclaimer is that because I worked from home, I wasn't having to pump a lot. Like, I wasn't pumping like in an office environment at work. I feel like thinking about that does sound terrible. So speaking about this baby, because this will likely be our last baby, I don't know, you guys, I might turn into one of those moms that's just breastfeeding this baby until it's like, 18 years old. And I feel like I can't even take credit for it. I feel like it's also the baby. Like, both babies latched on really quickly. My milk supply came in within 24 hours of me giving birth. I hope I don't fucking jinx it. Watch, now this one's gonna be like a terrible experience or something. Will you eat the Chinese special diet after giving birth again? Some of those foods were ... interest. The answer is yes. So for all of my pregnancy, I did the Chinese postpartum meal plan, which in Chinese is called 坐月子. And it's not just food, it's food, and it's also like kind of a set of rules about how you should treat your body. It's a lot of historic, old-timey traditions. They believe that for a woman, one of the very few times in a woman's life where they can reconstruct and re-dial in their bodies is after giving birth. Like, basically your insides and your body is just in this readjustment, realigning period. And that period, which is usually 30 to 40 days, is a very delicate period. And what you do in that period is going to dictate your health, your beauty. So with that being said, they believe that there are certain foods you should eat. There are certain foods you should stay away from. There are certain things you should do. There are certain things you shouldn't do within that time period. So yes, I follow it pretty loosely because of course I'm still very American. So, because there are things like it says to not take a shower for 30 days. So I didn't follow that because I wanted to shower. So I feel like I follow it, mostly the dietary stuff. I try to bend it to my life as it is. Kevin with me too, we really got into researching all the meanings and all the health benefits and the 坐月子 diet. I always feel like after you research the whys of something, like why they're saying to do or not to do something, you can then come to your own informed decision. Anyways, that was perfect timing. Actually, that was the last question and the baby's up. So I have to go get him, but thank you for all your questions. I tried to really get like a good widespread of questions from just on like a larger scale. This is from my Instagram and from my TikTok that I got these questions from. Hopefully that answered a lot of your guys' questions. Okay, I have to go. I love you so much. Goodbye.